Congrats on getting beyond 1 million. What got you here won't always get you there. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to reach beyond their 7-figure business and scale to 8, 9, and even 10 figures. I'm Brad Weimert, and as the founder of EasyPay Direct, I have had the privilege to work with more than 30,000 businesses, allowing me to see the data behind what some of the most successful companies on the planet are doing differently. Join me each week as I dig in with experts in sales, marketing, operations, technology, and wealth building. And you'll learn some of the specific tools, tactics, and strategies that are working today in those multi-million, 8, 9, and 10-figure businesses. Life can get exciting beyond 1 million.
Well, you won't accuse me of being boring on this one, but we will push the boundaries a little bit. Tucker Max is a 3-time New York Times bestselling author, which he doesn't seem to have much affinity for. He also built a multi-8-figure company, and we'll dig into the nuances of that. We will dig into personal life, writing books, marketing yourself, not the book, and the nuances of building a multi-8-figure company, both the good and the bad. Without further ado, Tucker Max. Tucker Max, appreciate you coming to hang out, man.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Yeah, it's good to see you, dude. So you are now living in the outskirts. But you made
outskirts of what?
Austin.
You live on the outskirts of where I am.
And that's Dripping Springs, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's a whole nother topic as to why and when and how you ended up in your own bubble or in a bubble with others that share a similar lifestyle.
Yep.
But let's start at the beginning. So most people know you because you are an unusual character that took your unusual lifestyle and wrote books about it.
Yeah.
And did another unusual thing, which is had 3 New York Times bestsellers at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So I want to at least hear the basics of that because I got introduced to I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell years ago.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. But that also that was the first book, but not the beginning of your writing, right?
No, it's pretty much.
Was it?
Yeah, like I wasn't like I went to law school, and like I had no plans of being a writer. Like in my mind, the only people who were writers were like lame bitches. Like I'm not. Who would be a writer?
Weren't you managing a blog or something that was?
That was like the internet stuff was my foray into writing. If I had been smart about, I was on the, early on the internet. If I'd been like, oh, this is a business, I'm going to make money, I wouldn't have gotten into writing. I was very successful at what I did, but like for someone who was like as early as I was, I mean, there were fields of gold I just passed by because it's like, it's just money. Who cares? Right. So no, it's not like I was, writing like, that was everything I did on the internet surrounded. It wasn't like I'm on the internet and I also write. It was I'm writing. Where do I put it? And so that's kind of how I had to learn because like I really started writing about 2002 and I sent all my writing started as emails to friends and I sent them. My friends thought they were hilarious. Like you should get this published. And so I sent all of my stuff to like book publishers and magazines and everything. And no one wanted to publish. I mean, literally no one, not zero positive response, absolute zero. And so like this was 2002. This is like back when GeoCities was still a thing. This is before MySpace, right? 2002. And so my buddy was like, why don't you just put it up on the internet? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. He's like, just, whatever, learn some HTML. And so I think I set up a GeoCities site and then put it up and like, then it kind of blew up because like at that point there wasn't like no one was, the internet was still pretty smallish, maybe 30, 40 million people on it in 2002. And most of them were like, Westerners at their office or in school, right? It was like, iPhones didn't exist, right? And so it was like people at work and people at school. And so my stuff got profiled on a site called College Humor, which is still around, still pretty big. They were big then. And they loved my stuff and always like kind of published my stories and they kind of blew up. And then all the publishers that turned me down came back and wanted to do books and it kind of became a thing. Then the book came out. It took 40 years really to go from my stuff's going on the internet for free to, and that was another thing too. It's like, if you don't get paid to write, you're not a writer.
Right.
Like that's the way, back then, right?
Right.
Like I was one of the very first people I was the first to go blog to book, right? To put high quality original writing on a blog for free was so patently absurd and like low status and down market then. Like no one did it unless you had no other option. I had no other option, but then my stuff was really good and I got a book deal. And let me
pause there. So you said you had no other option, and you also started, maybe before we started, but you mentioned that you were an attorney or you went to law school.
I went to law school. I did not take the bar.
Oh, got it. Awesome. Yeah. So which is also crazy, but so you spent all the time going to law school and never took the bar?
Never took the bar. Didn't even sit for it. Didn't study for
it. So why were you writing in the first place? And why did you feel
because I got fired. Okay. I got fired within 2.5 weeks being a lawyer. Because when you're in law school, you work during the summers at law firms. They kind of recruit you. You go there, they pay you a bunch of money. And you basically don't do anything. And it's like a job. It's like a cushy job that you can't get fired from. I got fired. And that story's actually in I Hope They Serve Beer and how that all that happened. But basically, I got super drunk at a bunch of firm events and acted like a reckless asshole. And then like a senior female partner tried to sleep with me and I turned her down and then told everybody, which is like the worst possible combination, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, you sleep
should have
with
done
her?
the opposite.
Right. If I sleep with her, I'm bulletproof.
Yes.
And if I'd shut up, I'd have been fine. But I'm like, fuck you. Hey, everybody, guess what? Of course they got rid of me. And so then after law school, I went to go work for my dad. He owns some restaurants in South Florida. And my dad fired me from the family business.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's tough, but I managed to get fired from 2 traditionally unfireable roles.
Now, I would totally do that to my kid. I think totally. I think that your child that you're bringing up through the world, it's probably one of the easiest to be like, no, it's my responsibility to teach you the right lessons in life.
Yeah.
Versus like a friend's kid or a friend or a different family member. Be like, no, my kid, like, get your shit together. This is not going to work.
Yeah,
in life.
It wasn't that simple. Like because you would probably like raise your kid, right?
Yes.
My parents got divorced when I was a year old. My dad really wasn't in my life much.
Oh, got it.
This was much more about my dad being a narcissistic asshole and just trying to get a problem that he didn't want to deal with out of his life.
Okay.
That's far. Now, like if we're being like, it's a whole different thing if he was like my dad and I grew up with him and I was just a fucking reckless dickhead. And no, it wasn't.
It's a different story.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay. So you got fired from both of those.
Yep.
Post law school, tried the quote unquote family business.
Yep.
Got fired there. But still, I don't see the path here because so you felt like you needed to write and put it on the internet.
No.
But as you said,
the only way I got into writing was, truly blind luck, is when my friends and we all left law school. I went to Duke for law school. And when we all left, we all went to like law firms. There was like 9 of us that were super good friends. And we joked we were like a law school fraternity, right? Which is like if you know anything about law, it's grad school. There's no fraternities.
Right.
But like it was like all a bunch of dudes who went to state schools and partied a lot and were in the cool fraternities of their state schools, but were smart. Like I went to University of Chicago. So there weren't many people like that at my school. My school was all nerds, right? And so, like I showed up and I was like the cool guy freshman year. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to be cool as a college freshman, but I was just because the bar was so low, right? And but my buddies all went to places like Pitt and Kansas and UVA and
wild
like
schools.
Right. They went to real party schools and they were cool guys at least when they left, right? They were like, and so they all got there and we all like kind of became friends. And so I loved it because I was around party guys who were smart. Like they were all smart as hell. Like they're all going to top 10 law school just like me. And I'm like, fuck man, I could have gone to a party school and ended up here. I didn't have to go to a smart school to end up here. And so anyway, so we had a blast, man, over 3 years. Like we had so much fun together. And when we left, we all went to different, cities and whatever. And so we would all write, like group chats now. We did like email threads because there was no group chat then.
Right.
And so like basically, we were all young lawyers, so we hated our lives because it's law firm is the worst. And so like we were all basically going out, getting drunk, acting like idiots in our free time, and then writing about how much we hate our lives. And I lived in South Florida, which is like cultural then especially. Like if you don't do drugs and you're not an old person, there's nothing for you in Florida. It's a little different now. It's a lot better post-COVID because like so many people have moved there.
Yeah.
But like in 2002, it was truly like you either have to be on coke or 75 years old to find a group there. And I was neither of those things. So it was really sucked. But, I still got drunk and hooked up with like horrible girls that I hated, but because there's nothing else to do. And so I wrote all these funny stories about it. My friends like, these are hilarious. And so like after my dad fired me, because my dad lives in Florida, that's why I was down there. And so after he fired me from the family business, they were like, dude, you obviously suck at law, you suck at business, but these stories are like the funniest things we've ever read. You should do this. You should write these for a living. I'm like, why? Be a writer. How could I? No, that's what? That's like I said, that's what bitches do. Like I'm not, they're like, well, I guess you're a bitch because this is what you're best at. And so then that's when I sent it all to publishers and like, cause I'm like, oh, well, if I'm a writer, it means a magazine has to hire me. I have to write a book. And they were all like, no, because like, it's funny. Everyone now is like, oh, it's like a bunch of woke people in media, bro. It's been like that for 20 years. Like it hasn't, it's just way worse now, but it's always been like book publishing's always been run by liberal lunatic women. Always. 20 years ago it was like this. It's just less of them.
So how was the blog or getting it online even a mechanism, because you didn't have a path to monetization there, right?
No.
Okay, so you were
definitely not in 2002.
So you were writing because you were told you were good at it.
Yes.
And you had hilarious stories and still do.
Yes.
But did you see a path to making money that way, or did you have another job in the meantime?
I mean, job. Like my job at the time was, remember speed dating? Like where you like 20 girl, you go in circle. Like I hosted speed dating events. Like I bartended. Like I was like at the phase of my life where I was making like $700 a month or something. I was like living at like in my friend's spare bedroom for like $200, what I'm paying him nothing, and like barely eating protein. Like I was like at that level, so I didn't need much money, and the path to monetization was maybe I'll get a book deal, maybe I'll make a movie. I was 27 and had failed at everything else. And this was the only thing I'd ever done that was working that I like got attention for. Right. And so I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just follow this. I'll just, like, I mean, even then, like, there were multiple paths to monetization. There's way more now. It's way easier and faster now, but there's way more competition. Back then, there was no competition or very, very little. And so like, cause I had good stuff, I stood out fast, but also I stood out because no one was doing it. Like no one was like, if you wanted to be a writer in 2002, you had to move to New York and try and get a job for Maxim or Esquire or all that shit like that. You had to take the path
to get noticed.
Right. It's why so many writers then especially hated my guts because I didn't follow their path. Right. And I beat them at their own game. Like literally, bro, I'll never forget this guy, man. He was an editor at Esquire and he hated my guts and used to write stuff, the most negative shit about me, which of course I thought was hilarious, right? I'm like, look at this fucking nerd upset at me because I'm hooking up with girls and he sits in an office all day with a thumb up his ass taking orders from some bitch, right? And like, but he admitted to a friend of mine once, or not, like a PR person I know, that like he hated me so much because I didn't follow the rules. I didn't follow the path. And I got the book deals and the famous success that he was supposed to get in his fucking mind.
Weird.
Right? He was supposed to be me. And I'm like, well, why didn't you have any fucking courage and go fucking put your shit out? And right? Like what? Following the path only gets you on the path, But I mean, with these entrepreneurs listening, everyone listening to this knows that shit.
Yeah, but that's great. I love the lack of ownership with the supposed.
Of course,
to.
right?
Sense of entitlement around
it's
things.
My fault he failed. Right? Of course.
Well, yeah, that's and there's so many lessons in all parts of life. So many people that you run into where that rears its head, right? From employees to clients to
employees.
Yeah. So we'll get there. So that's interesting that you went there, but. And we'll fast forward a bit to your current, which is Scribe, which was formerly Book in a Box that helps people get their thoughts out of their head.
Not current. I sold out of that 8 months ago.
Or are you totally gone now?
Oh, totally gone.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew that you were on the edge because I actually had Javon, who is the CEO, and now
he resigned.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we got stories
like last
here.
week. He resigned.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get there. But let's back up to the 3 books. So you go New York Times bestseller on the first one, right?
Out of the gate. Because,
really?
Bro, I'll never forget, like, I put an email capture form on my site only because one of my early fans was some tech nerd. He goes, you should get people's emails. I'm like, why do I want people's emails? He's like, so you can like send them stuff. I'm like, why do I want to send them stuff? He's like, how are they going to know when you put a book out? I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's a good point.
And so like I'd never actually sent an email, and I had like 70,000 emails.
Crazy.
And when my book came out, and I'm like, I didn't even know how to send it. Like I had to get someone to help me. And sent out and sold like 5,000 books the first week. And, I got no press for this book. Nothing. Even though I had a traditional publisher, nothing. No press, nothing at all. And sold 5,200 copies or something like that. And it which was more than enough to get on the New York Times bestseller list. And which was like out of nowhere, this book, And then the second week I was on 2. So I was on 2 weeks in a row. And like, which was like kind of unprecedented. So I was the first person to go blog to book and the first blog to book to bestseller. So it was pretty cool. But then like, it kind of fell off because there was no support. And then it took about a year and then it went back on just from word of mouth. And then it stayed on for like 5 calendar years after that. I think it was on 5 or 6 consecutive years.
Yeah, that's a trip. And that led you. So when it came back on after the first, was that the prompt to write the second?
Yeah. Once it came,
Assholes Finish First.
Assholes Finish First. I forget the sequence. I think I actually signed to do Assholes Finish First before it came back on. Yeah, because I didn't sign for very much for Assholes Finish First. And then, then I did that. And then the books 3 and 4, which is Hilarity Ensues and Sloppy Seconds, I actually own those myself. Like I just started my own publishing company.
Oh, interesting.
Got a distribution deal. Like I did like the George Lucas, Tyler Perry, Chance the Rapper thing. I was like, I'm going to own my own shit.
Yeah.
And I was a big enough deal that I could do it.
Well, okay. So tell me about that. Because I think, first of all, the reasons for writing a book for you personally and then for what Scribe has done are potentially different.
Yeah.
And also the ecosystem for doing it's totally different now.
Yeah.
So at the time, what was the path to architect getting on those lists, and how has it changed to today?
Oh, dude. I mean, it was when I went on the list, it was 2006.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a fundamentally different world. Like it's almost not worth talking about because like if you weren't around then, you're almost not going to believe like in 2006, the bestseller list meant something. It was pretty honest. Like the editors actually put, for the most part, the best-selling books on there. Mm-hmm. It was very rare for a book that should have been on the list that wasn't. At that point, it was very rare. It happened, but it was rare. Whereas now, if my books came out now, it wouldn't matter how much they sold. New York Times would never put it on the list because politically, socially, they wouldn't. Oh, we can't have that person on our list. Like what they did to Jordan Peterson, right? Like refused to put Jordan's book, like last 2 books on the list, right?
Oh wow!
Even though it sold millions and millions and millions of copies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the New York Times bestseller list is not a bestseller list. It was basically one at the time. It is not one now. It is a measure of what leftist New York elites think people should be reading. That's
Crazy.
What it is.
How do you see that against Wall Street Journal?
Wall Street Journal has more fidelity to it. I mean, like what Wall Street Journal does, they take Nielsen BookScan, which is like sort of the company that counts book sales. They don't get all book sales, but they get a lot of them, 70 to 80%. And what they do is they just take the Nielsen list and publish that, right? Sometimes they do some editorial stuff to it, but it's pretty rare. But again, it's like, I mean, they don't put the Bible on there. There's all kinds of books that are continuously selling that are huge that they just don't put on, right? And so it's like the better way to think of any bestseller list is generally speaking, it's an editorial product that people are trying to use to capture the zeitgeist at the time in books, right? That's what the editors are trying to make it reflect. Here's what we think people are reading and what we think is important and what we think is noteworthy right now, right? it's not a list of best-selling books. It's not an accurate. It's just not. It's never been that. In fact, the New York Times got sued in the 70s over that by an author who sold. The guy wrote Deliverance. That book sold like 10 million copies. They wouldn't put Deliverance on the list because it offended their sensibilities or whatever. And he sued them and he lost because the New York Times' defense was this is not a best-selling list. It's not a list of best-selling books. This is an editorial product that we get to decide what goes on it. And so it's pretty breathtaking, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the fine print on the list, they say that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right. And so even to this day, it says that. So, and then now, especially in 2006, it was almost unheard of to game the list. To really there were no companies that you could, if there were, they just started. And they were very unsophisticated. Now there's a bunch of companies where, you pay us 30 grand or 50 grand or 300 grand or whatever, then we'll orchestrate your way on the list. And there was a period they were very successful and could do it almost every time. Now they've gotten a lot harder because the newspapers have the New York Times and whatever have gotten wise to it. It's easier to game the Wall Street Journal list because you can then you're just gaming book sales and there's ways to game that. It just costs money. So if you look at you could pull it up, man. Pull up any Wall Street Journal bestseller list and I'll tell you probably with 80 to 90% accuracy who's gaming that list and who's not.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just look at it a couple weeks in a row, right? If someone's isn't on at all, then debut at number 2 and you don't ever see them again, they bought their way on. That's just, that's not how book sales work.
Yeah.
Even with ones that are big spikes and fall off, it's still a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Because any organic exposure is going to get you purchases over time.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, and I guess we got to throw Amazon in there now too, because they're notable. And then anybody that launches a book ever at this point is an Amazon bestseller.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's not even a thing.
I know.
It's just made up. That's the thing marketers made up to sell money or sell nonsense.
So that brings us to the point, which is, isn't that what all of it is? Because there is whether the list is, quote unquote, valid from a actual bestseller perspective or not, people see it as a badge of credibility.
They used to. But it's so worn out that it's just like the endless arms race it's another example, the endless arms race for high status with low confidence people. And being a bestseller used to be rare. It's not anymore because there was that 5-year period where marketers took whatever money they could to make any crappy piece of shit book that sold 5 copies a bestseller. And so now no one takes it seriously anymore because it's like it used to be a big deal to have a TED Talk. And then people realized they could game the TEDx system and everyone has a TED Talk and no one cares, right?
Yeah.
It's what's the great Dr. Seuss book where the ones with the star, with the star is high status and without a star, and then
I don't know. I probably read it when I was a kid and didn't get it.
Yeah, it's it's not the Horton books, but it's God damn it, I have it at home. I've read it to my kids. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, dude, it's just people desperately thirsty people looking for fame and status. And so it doesn't matter to them if it's real or not. In fact, it's probably better if it's not real because they don't have to do any work.
So do you think that there's no value in those things today from a marketing perspective?
I mean, if there's still value in those and you're marketing to a very uneducated, very out of the loop populace.
Isn't that most people outside of
No, I mean even
entrepreneurs?
No, I'm talking beyond that. Way beyond that. I'm talking about you're talking to people who haven't heard of COVID yet.
Okay. So you don't think it's worth going for the list. So if you're,
look, you can, there are, if it's an ego play for you, if you're just going to admit to yourself, I want it to put it on my resume, like buying a Ferrari. I want to have a Ferrari because I think Ferraris are, I think I'm cool if I have a Ferrari. Just fucking admit why you're buying a Ferrari. Don't pretend like you're a gearhead. Unless you've been a gearhead for 30 fucking years, shut the fuck up. Unless you can draw me a fucking camshaft and tell me exactly how it connects to whatever the fucking pieces it connects to, I don't know, because I'm not a gearhead. Don't tell me you're buying a Ferrari for gearhead reasons.
I got it. So, so the point is, so let's fast forward to Scribe for a minute. We'll bounce around. But so you went through several successful books. And in 14 or 15, you launched Book in a Box?
14,
you launched Book in a Box.
Yeah.
Eventually that turned into Scribe.
Yep.
And the premise of that company was people, let me see if I can get it succinctly. A lot of people have good stories, but most of them are not authors.
Yeah, a lot of people have good books in them.
Good books,
which is true. They just don't know how to write books.
Right.
So you can learn how to write a book. You can hire someone to do it with you.
Yep. And so you had a very formulaic way of approaching the outcome being a book.
Right, to get nonfiction books out of people, specifically out of experts, right? Like find someone who knows the space really well. And we still do a great process to get their book about their expertise out of their head and into a book, in their words and their voice specifically, not just like some bullshit. Like it's actually what they think and know in the way that they would say it, in a way that appeals to their audience.
So specifically with that client, that ideal client profile, those experts, a huge chunk of them, the purpose of it has to be monetization or credibility or
money. It helps their business.
It helps their business.
It's not money from book sales.
Right.
Right? Like if you're writing fiction, the way you make money is from selling copies. So you better like write something a lot of people want to buy, right?
Right.
If you are like someone like you is a really good example. The odds that you're going to write a nonfiction book that sells lots of copies is just really, really low. It's nowhere near worth your time and investment unless you just really want to do it. It's a meaningful thing to you to write, and you're fine with the odds being astronomically against you, right? But if you look at a book not as a thing you want to market, but a thing you want to use to market you, right? Like, oh, I've got this amazing company, Easy Pay Direct. We provide this really valuable service in a way that is somewhat unique. And I have this knowledge about payment systems and all this sort of stuff that's very valuable to anyone who does online sales or whatever, or even brick and mortar. Whatever. Like, I want to put my knowledge into a book to help those people with their problem and then lead some portion of them back to us to be clients. I mean, the Scribe was built on people like you who make no money on book sales or very, very little and make hundreds of thousands, if not millions or tens of millions on clients that the book brings in, either directly or even indirectly, right? Like I can't endless testimonials of people who make millions and millions of dollars off their book selling 500 copies.
Yeah. Well, I would, mutual friend John Rulin. I think
Rulin's a great example.
Be a great example, right? So he wrote Giftology and people just now know him as, that created his brand, right? It created the brand of the gift giving.
And
guy.
his firm is quintupled in size since he wrote his book or more. Like it's huge. Like he's the corporate gift guy. If you're a corporation, you want to send awesome gift to your clients, you basically go to John Rulin now. Yeah.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy the number of people that I meet in the far reaches of my world.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the Giftology guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's this tiny niche. No one else had it.
Yeah.
He's good at it.
Yeah.
Then he just focused on that and nothing else. He didn't try and be the entrepreneur guy.
Right.
He's just, I'm the guy who corporate gifts.
Yeah.
He's not if you need a gift for your wife, you don't call John fucking Rulin. Like that would be a disaster. But if you want a gift for women of your business, he's the dude.
Yeah.
You know?
So, okay, but that's kind of the point, right? So, and I think you're proving it, but if you're that person, doesn't it still add to it? Don't you still want to have the credibility of the lists or the status of the book being a seller?
It doesn't really give you any status, especially when it's fake.
Yeah, well.
Right? No, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, so take Rulin. Rulin's a really good example. I think Rulin ended up selling a lot of copies of his book over time. Like he's probably in the 20 or 30,000 and he's given a lot away too, speaking whatever. But I'm talking about just actual raw organic sales. So if you sell let's call it 25,000 copies of a nonfiction book, that's a lot. That's a fuckload, right? But I guarantee you he hasn't had 1 week where he sold more than 1,000, right? Not counting like him selling directly to a place he's doing a speech, right? I'm talking about organic Amazon bookstore sales. Never even come close. So he's never come close to a bestseller list. And honestly, why would a book on corporate gift giving ever be a bestseller? That's fucking stupid. There just aren't even anywhere remotely that number of people. So for him to pretend the preposterous conceit that the book's a bestseller is just it makes him look, I'm not even saying he does it. If he were to do it, it would make him look ridiculous, right? It's like a short, fat Asian dude with all these hot women pretending he got them for no other reason than he's awesome. Come on, man. Like, you might be that one dude in a million, but come on. Like, really, you're rich, or you have drugs, or you're their pimp. There's something else. Just tell me what's going on, right? Yeah. And so it's like, why pretend that your niche business book, and there's no shame in that. Niche business books can be exceedingly valuable to the people that they reach, right?
Yeah.
They're not mass audience books.
Yeah.
And it's basically impossible to have a bestseller that's not a mass audience book. It's extremely difficult. So why pretend? Yeah. Just tell the fucking truth, right? Like, especially, I can't tell you how many finance type people, oh God, who would come in and be like, yeah, but I think my clients will be impressed. I'm like, no, dude, they're not. They're going to think you're a fucking clown. Like, I promise you they will. They're like, no, they're going to, I'm like, oh, dude. And so then I walked through and explained it to them. And the ones who listened to me, because here's the problem too. If you really focus on a bestseller list, let's say as a financial advisor, then you have to, because they'll get stuck on like, well, Susie Orman sold 8 million books. I'm like, bro, you're a dude. So like, you're not on TV and you aren't trying to teach poor people how to save $30 a month. You're not Susie fucking Orman. You're trying to get people worth $30 million to invest money with you. There's, 10,000 of those people or whatever. She's talking to people where there's 100 million of them. Right? Your messages are different. That's the key. Is if you're going after 100 million people, you have to have a message that is so banal and so uninteresting and irrelevant to who your clients are as a high level wealth advisor. You're never going to reach them. So you can have an actual bestseller that doesn't appeal to anyone you're trying to reach to. Right? And then you can be, you want to be Susie Orman, go be Susie Orman or whoever else. Like, you want to go be Dave Ramsey, go be Dave Ramsey. Like, but they're media figures that are not wealth advisors. But if you want people who are worth $30 million to invest with you, you need to speak to them. And they don't care that you're a bestseller. They care that you know something that they don't know that helps them. Right. And then like guys like Chad Willerson listened to me and he tripled his assets under management in 2 years by having an extremely niche book that was really, really good for a certain type of ultra high net wealth person. And he nailed those people. And now like what John Rulin is to corporate gifting, Chad Willerson is to those people. And he now managing all kinds of fucking money. Right. So it's like you know the saying in construction, good, cheap, fast, pick two? It's like that in books, man. Like you can have fame and status or you can have money. And people are like, well, if I sell books, I get a lot of books, I get both. I'm like, well, you think it's just magic? Go write a book that's going to sell a lot. If I knew the exact formula to write books that would sell a lot of books every time, I would not start Scribe. I would just go write those books. Like that is not a formulaic thing. And no one knows that formula. Even the best writers, the most prolific writers don't know that formula because there isn't one.
I like it. So we could talk about marketing the book, but I think the overarching point, which is relevant.
You don't market the book. You use the book to market you.
I love that. You don't market the book. Use the book to market you.
Right.
Yeah. And the overarching point that was made was clear, I think, or what I heard was clarity on your outcome dictates the path that you go down.
100%.
And if you lack clarity in the outcome, then you're going to go all over the fucking place.
The first question we ask our clients, people still come to me all the time and consult me, help me like write my book or think of my book. And I'm like, all right, well, I charge way more money than you can go to Scribe, but they're like, no, I want you. Okay, fine. So, I run them through the same process and it's just like, what do you want? First question, what do you want from your book? And then like they'll usually give some bullshit answer. I want my book to help people. I want to change the world. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Wonderful. I don't care. Selfishly, for you, what do you want this book to get for you? Right? And then it becomes a test of their how honest they are with themselves. Right? Like how quickly they will actually answer that question. Right? Or how much they fight about the book's not for them, it's for someone else versus when I frame it as selfishly for you, right? Like, yeah, the book has to do things for other people to be successful. We're not going to worry about that right now. Right now, what do you want from this book? What does it have to get for you for it to be a success? Just for you. If then they quickly go, I want clients or I want whatever it is they want, because there's many different answers. As soon as you tell me what you want, I can tell you exactly the type of book you have to write. Right. But until you tell me what you want, I can't, because like that you're exactly right. That is the question. I have a consulting client right now. I've done 4 calls with him. We have spent the entire time on all 4 calls just answering this question, because like he was real fucked up about this and all over the place. And if you don't answer this question correctly, nothing else matters. Everything's sort of like building a house. If you lay the wrong foundation, nothing you can do after that will fix it. It's unfixable. Same thing with a book. If you do not position it correctly for you, what you want, you cannot market your way out of that. I can't tell you how many people come to me and be like, I'll give you 200 grand or 500 grand to market this book and make it a bestseller. And I'll look at the book. I'm like, no, I can't do it. They're like, okay, I'll pay you more. It's not about the money. I'm just telling you that book is not marketable. And then there's other books where I'm like, oh shit, you can market that for 20 grand. Like that's easy. Like that requires no effort because it's positioned perfectly, right? Like if you have a message for people who want it and need it, it's really easy to market, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a message for nobody that no one cares about, can't market that. Mm-hmm. Books are no different, man. Positioning is positioning. It's like, it's funny. People who know marketing will come in to books and like, it's like they lose their fucking mind. It's like they forget everything they know about marketing because books have some weird, mystical, magical power in our culture. And I had a status position with some people and where it's like the idea, I think it has an identity and author and all that kind of stuff. Sure. They get that all in their head and they get all fucked up. And then it's like so much of what we built at Scribe. And what I had to do was help people unpack that shit and realize, oh, at the end of the day, positioning is just positioning.
Yeah. Well, the irony there is that the message carries across all different forms of entrepreneurship. It's both true that if you're not clear on what you're trying to get out of a business, you're going to end up creating a weird fucking business. Yes. Because if you weren't clear that you really wanted a lifestyle business, but you're running it that way, but you think you want to scale it, but you really want to have a lifestyle, which is, by the way, almost all entrepreneurs. It's fine. It's also great.
Yes.
But you have to be clear on what you're doing.
I kind of wish we built Scribe that way.
Well,
dude, Zach and I were talking about this the other day, man. Like we could have had 5 million top line, 3 million, or 2 million net off of that. We could have made $1 million a piece and just never grown and just been great. So yeah, we could have done that. We could have done that. Would have run forever.
Do you think fantastic? Do you think ego got in the way of doing that? Do you feel like you had to build it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, ego and like I wanted to build something that was going to scale and make a lot of money and cash in and I mean, if I'm being honest, and that's the only real answer. It has to be.
Well, the same thing happens in marketing today with social. Right? People are like, oh, I'm going to use this channel to get more attention, to drive more business. Yeah. And they don't distill it any further. Yeah. But then they fail to see some of the things that you were saying about clarity of outcome with a book. Right. And it's like, oh, well, actually having the net cast that widely or producing content this way isn't going to hit your audience, right? It's not going to be what you want to get out of it. Yeah. And so then they sort of shotgun a bunch of random shit and find themselves living in a world of this isn't quite right. Okay, so let's talk about Scribe. You start Scribe because it sounds like you want a cash out event. You want to scale something.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like I had so many. When you're an author, man, the question you get all the time from people is like, how do I write my book? And then I had some people coming to me to try and get me to write their book or help them or whatever. And I just like, the saying, the market will pull the product out of the startup. That's just kind of what happened. It's like there was such a demand for this. And then like most of the companies in the space were such fucking clowns. They were like literally just some internet marketer asshole who wrote some piece of shit book about how to write a book calling himself a fucking expert on book writing. And I'm like, I wouldn't hire you to write emails. Like you're an idiot. And like, there's a couple that live in Austin right now. And so I was just like, no, I'm the only person in this space who's actually done it. Like actually done it in real life.
Right.
And so it was like, all right, that was part of it too. Is like, there's a huge company to be built in this space that could be really good. And we built it, man. Like when Zach and I left, we had done 15 million in top line revenue the year before we left and 24 million the year we left. And so like we got it. We built the machine and we got it going, and it was going. It was hitting escape velocity because there's such a demand for it and there's so little quality product out there. Just because it's one of those fields where the barrier to entry is zero, right? So it just took us a while to build the brand and show, no, we have the best stuff. And then once people realized it, then it was off to the races, And so like that was another part of why it scaled, is because there was a lot of demand and I didn't have the wisdom yet or the experience yet to realize that like, or the self-awareness to realize, no, I mean, maybe I just didn't, I don't think I was emotionally at the right place where I could have even realized it at the time. Looking back now, though, by far the best thing for me would have been for Zach and I is to build this as like a really absolutely bulletproof lifestyle business, like which we could have done. We could have gotten a core team of about 25 people who were all badasses, paid them well. We could have had a year-long wait list to work with us. We could have done every book fucking amazing. Like it could have been just dialed. And it would have taken very little effort from us. Once we got that machine running, we could have done that and kick off, $500,000, $1 million a year to each of us, like true 4-hour work week style shit, and then gone off and done something else. That probably would have been better, but I didn't have the discipline or the wisdom to know what kind of business I built. Because it is at its core, Scribe was a high-end service business. And those are the hardest businesses to scale. The hardest. Like they're basically impossible to scale those. And I didn't quite understand that. And I didn't quite realize like what we had ahead of us is so hard. But we fucking did it, actually. We scaled long time. I mean, we did 2,000 something books,
Why do you feel like those are the hard ones to scale?
Because high-end, so a service business, right? That's just
people-based.
Right. You are not just people-based, but customer service-based, right? Like, so that's really hard. And now it is a high-touch, high-end. So it's like, Zappos calls itself a customer service business. They're selling fucking shoes, right? There's not a whole lot you have to do. The shoes show up or they don't show up. The shoes fit or they don't fit, right? Like there's not a whole lot of, you can write a customer service manual for them.
Don't be an asshole.
It's hard. It's real easy, right? Bro, when you're writing books with people, that's like, the only thing more difficult than that would be like childcare. No, I'm dead serious. And I started a school in Dripping, so I know childcare is far more difficult. But like that, most people have so much identity and emotion tied up with books because it's their story. Even if it's just an expertise book, right? That it's like, it's my name and my face and it's my story. And that's their fucking identity, dude, which I did not really realize when I started Scribe. Like I had to become an absolute kick-ass organizational, a therapist. And Bro, I learned so much there. But shit I don't have problems with, but imposter syndrome. And I know everything about these fields because after working with hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people, because I had to build the system for this, right? I had to understand how to do this with people. Because, dude, writing the books is easy. Like the actual knowledge of how to write a book is fucking trivially easy, honestly. Like it's all in our book, Scribe Method. Like we have a free course that's like, better than what like those other idiots charge like $1,000 for their course, $2,000, whatever. It's amazing. That's easy. The struggle is not the technical part of writing a book. The struggle is the emotion around it, right? Like how you see a book, how you see yourself as an author, how you see your story, all of that stuff, right? And so like I had to create this framework where, and then we had to, we have like account reps, right? Like essentially people like not just the writers. You got to have the people who take the authors through the process because it's like very complicated process writing a book. You don't just throw it together. And so like, oh, dude, like understanding all the different avatars of clients and then being able to teach that to people who are smart, but like not authors, right? And not writers. And then like, oh, dude, it was so much work. It was such a difficult nut to crack, and it was so hard. And I mean, bro, I got the masterclass of masterclasses in customer service business. And then remember too, not just customer service, not just high touch, but you're dealing with identity and emotion, all that, but then also very successful people. Mm-hmm. Like these aren't like, you're not selling shoes to like some dude who works at a bodega, right? You're selling the permanent record of the life of someone very rich and successful and high status, in essence. Right. Or what they see that as. Yeah. You think some bullshit comes up with people as you write books, dude? Yeah, for sure. Dude, you have to be so... but the problem with that is, like, if we were charging $500,000 a book, this would be an easy business, right? Because then you can hire... Bro, I would just be hiring like psychologists, and I'd be hiring. Seriously, I'd be hiring people who were badasses at understanding this stuff coming in. But we were charging, even now, I don't know, 40 something grand for the mid tier product, and only like 140 something for the high end product. So it's like decent margins. Yeah. But a service business in media, you're not really getting better than 30% margins. It's just the way that. Because there's zero barrier to entry, right? So people are like, well, the Scribe charges X, but I can go over to, Junkmaster McGee and I can pay half that. I'm like, what? So like the market itself sort of, even though it's like brand matters a lot. And we had a badass brand. We did David Goggins' book, Tiffany, Haddish. We did some huge people. It's just like there's a lot of things operating from all sides, and then like hiring is just so hard. Yeah, it's hard. It was hard then, even. Well, I want to dig into the operations of the book of that business, but I also want to get kind of granular on the concrete steps. And we don't have to belabor this because I know you've got a bunch of content out there about it. But you said, the basics of writing a book are super simple. Yeah. What are those basics? Nonfiction. To be nonfiction. Yeah. Like a nonfiction expert book. Prescriptive nonfiction. Okay. Well, before we dig into this, were the books that you wrote that went New York Times bestseller nonfiction? Yeah. Or were they fiction? But they were like memoir nonfiction. They were like my stories. Right. It's like, which is like, I can. In its entirety, or were they some like, perverted version of reality? I mean, it's my life the way I remember it. Pun intended. Right? Yeah. Like, there's plenty of people who are like, hold on, I was there, but like I remember it differently. I'm like, well, you have your own fucking memory, asshole. Well, I was very drunk, so I don't know what to tell you. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, like, no, those are. We didn't have a whole lot of people coming in to do memoir. So like, there's basically three types of books. There's fiction, right? Well, there's two major types: fiction and nonfiction. But within nonfiction, there's a big division. Right? Memoir versus, call it prescriptive nonfiction, right? So prescriptive nonfiction is Think and Grow Rich, or how to make friends and influence people, right? Or anything like that, like the Checklist Manifesto, whatever. Like here is knowledge, right? And you can put Gladwell's books. There's a lot of divisions within prescriptive nonfiction, but basically it's like, here's knowledge for you. Memoir is, here's my story. And fiction is, here's a made up story. Right. So they are three very distinct genres, and you do each three of them completely differently. Okay. Right? So let's talk nonfiction. What are the steps to architecting a nonfiction book? Because there are a shitload of people listening that are going to hear, this is a way to market me. Yeah. Right. It is. And suddenly realize, I don't care if it gets on the non-seller list, or at least some bestseller list. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Bestseller list. Or at least some small portion will realize that. The rest will still want it to be on the list. What are the steps to doing that? So the first step is, what do I want? What do I want this book to get me? Forget anyone else. Yeah. What do I want it to get me? Second step, you got to really answer that honestly, though. The more honest you are with yourself, and I don't care. Probably can't tell you how many times I'd be like, no judgment. I don't care what your answer is. If you want it to get you laid, then just tell me and I'll tell you how to do that. Right. Just what do you want? Right. And then you can have a list of things, but number one is like, what's the thing that you have to make it a success? So what do you want? Then who do I have to reach to get what I want? Right. So let's just say, like someone like you, I want leads for my business, right? I want customers. Okay. Right. That'd be an obvious thing for Easy Pay Direct. I want people who need my services. Okay. Who do you need to reach? Entrepreneurs of this type of business who need, payment services. Okay, cool. Now, here's the big thing. What do you have to say that they care about? Right? Which you have a lot to say, right? So you're like, oh man, all right. And then you can start thinking about, all right, what's the knowledge and wisdom I have to share with them that they're going to find really valuable?
Let me ask you something there. So there's a division when I think about sales and marketing, and we look at an avatar.
Right.
There's what do they want to hear? And then there's what do I think they need to hear?
What do they need to know versus what do they want to hear?
You got it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the saying, like, sell them what they want and give them what they need.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely get into that once you get into what do they need to know, or what do you have to know that they care about? That's why I don't say need to know or want to know. I always say, what do they care about? Right? Because like you could say, okay, my clients think they want X,
right? But
I know they need Y.
Right.
Then it becomes a discussion of how do we sell them X and deliver them Y, like, which is as long as you can do that unethically or very ethically. Right. And so as long as someone's like, look, like with books, a lot of people think they want to be on a bestseller list. What they really need, most of them, is sales for their business. Now, if we go through this whole process and like, I don't care about sales, I just care about bestseller list. Okay, cool. I can tell you how to do that. No problem. So I'm not going to deliver something different, but like, I do get the idea that you have to meet your customers where they are, right? Instead of where you want them to be. But you can do that easily in a book. Like, that's not a problem at all to have a book that gets you everything you want, that reaches the people you need to reach, that meets them where they are. That's like, okay, all my customers believe X. I know X isn't true. I'm going to write a book that addresses X, that gives them X. But really, I'm going to use X to backdoor Y in, because Y is what's going to get them what they want. That's actually what they need. That's fine. That's totally ethical. There's tons of books that do that. And they do it well. And it works.
Ethical clickbait.
That totally works. Because if it really is, what that evidence is that you know your customers, right? Like, I know who my people are. I know what they think, and I know where their thinking is flawed, which is probably why they're fucked up around payments, because they think something about payments that's wrong. And if you try and like address them the way they should be, you're going to miss them, because they're like, this guy's not talking to me because I believe something else.
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense to meet them where they are. Totally.
Okay. So super clear on what you personally want out of the book.
Yes.
Super clear on
who you're trying to reach. Like, who are you trying to reach to get that? Like, I want leads for my business. I need 7-figure entrepreneurs or whatever.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, what do I have to say that they care about? Oh, I got this thing to say. They don't know they need to know it, but they need to know it. There you go. Then your book then the magic is figuring out how to position what they need to know in a way that reaches them where they are, so that you get what you want. That's the alchemy then, is putting all those pieces together, which there is some art and skill to that. Like, that's not just formulaic. The steps are simple to understand. Sometimes putting them together can get hard. Like, that's where we really make our money. Like, the really good writers at Scribe make their money, is like helping people architect that. And it's funny. You don't have to be a great marketer. All you really have to do is be great at asking the client questions. Like, I don't really know anything about payments, right? Like, your business. But I bet you I could ask you enough questions to where, like, I could figure out, you would tell me the answer without realizing. Because you know your business so well, you probably just aren't seeing it, right?
Tell you the answer for what the book should be.
Right. I just have to ask you enough questions, and I'll hear you tell me. And then I've got to be able to recognize it. Oh, hold on. You said you want to, go after 8-figure entrepreneurs, and you know this thing that they care about. So why not say it this way? Because you said that's what I'm like, oh yeah. Because a lot of times it's very much like, label and bottle, right?
Yep.
Like, you're not seeing it because you're inside the bottle, because you're so focused on what they need to know. I'm not. I'm outside the bottle, so I can see it usually a lot easier. That's where the magic comes, is just being able to ask you those questions and helping you see. I don't have to know I don't have to know anything about payments to help you figure out the answer in your business. I just have to be good at asking questions and be good at seeing it.
Part of the ingenuity of Scribe. was figuring out how to do that.
Well, we had a process for that, but then we'd hire talented writers too.
Right.
The best process on earth, if you hire dumbasses to implement it, it's not going to work. Right?
Except McDonald's.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So I like that. Let's jump into the actual mechanics of the business, because you went from being an author to a CEO.
Uh-huh.
How was that transition, and what were the roles and responsibilities there with you versus Zach?
So early on, it was me and my partner. Zach was basically operations. I was like sort of content. I was product and marketing, right? And we did great until we got to be about 10 or 12 people, and then the wheels fell off, right? Because that's when you have to start putting in. When you're 5 people, you don't need you don't need processes. You just get shit done, and you don't need tracking software. You just what everyone. You can hold 5 people in your head at once.
Right.
You can even hold 8 people in your head at once.
Yep.
Somewhere between 9 and 15, everything breaks. Right. And so, I forget if it was 10 or 11 or 12, but it was weird, man. It was 1 week. It's like the wheels just came off, right? Like there was just too much, right? And so like when we started having to put in real process and then kind of hire management, I had no idea how to do that. Now I can do that great. Like I've learned that, and I'm like, I wouldn't call myself an expert. Like I wouldn't hire me to teach that, but I can do it. But at the time, that was, a decade ago or whatever. I was, insufficient. Like, I didn't even know what I didn't know, and we were growing so fast, and that would have been the place. That would have been the time and the place to decide we want to be big or we want to be small, and then kind of go like, hold on. All right. So we want to be small. Okay. So I can take my time and learn this, and we can just put clients on hold, and we can, wait lists and whatever.
Yeah.
And grow slower. But I was like, both Zach and I were like pedal to the metal. Yeah.
So I love that distinction and the realization that, hey, you hit a point in time where you stress tested the business.
Yeah, it failed.
And it failed, but you made a choice and you said, look, I can either learn how to navigate through this, or I can adjust the outcome that I'm after and change my behavior accordingly.
Yes.
And few people have the self-awareness to recognize their choices in that moment. And it sounds like maybe you didn't either, because you were like, fuck it, I need to go forward and grow and get bigger.
Well, I recognize the choices. I think I just made the wrong one. Because it was like, there were 3 choices. We can have a small business, we can go slower and I can learn to be CEO, or we can put the pedal to the metal and we go hire a CEO. That's what we did.
Yeah.
So we pedaled to the metal, hired a dude who had done this before, and he was with us for like 7 years, and he did great. Like when Zach and I were there, our CEO was a total rock star.
What was it about Javon, character traits, values, background, that you identified to be the things that made him a great CEO?
He had the experience with scaling business, which I did not. He understood financials deeply. The dude could look at a P&L and understand a whole business, which is like, seems like fucking voodoo to me, right? But it's funny because I said that and I'm like, and Zach's like, well, dude, you can read a page of a book and tell the person all the problems. I'm like, yeah, you're right, I can. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like when you know a space so well,
deeply, yeah.
Right? You can fill in all the gaps almost instantaneously because you got so many reps. His reps with financials were amazing, and he was an amazingly good understander and leader, coach of people. Right? Like in a business context, he understood what they were thinking. He understood what they needed to hear. He understood how to get them to various places, like way better than like amazing. And like he was like an adult executive, but that could operate at startup speed, and that wasn't just a system guy. Like you see like, oh, this person was all these amazing roles at Ford, and then they go like to a small company and they're a complete disaster because they're just, all they ever knew how to do was navigate a bureaucracy.
Right. He
He wasn't like that. He was not a navigate a bureaucracy guy. He is actually a get shit done guy. And so like that's what he brought that we didn't have. And so we had all the fucking product. And I'm product fucking genius in that space, right? Zach and I both were great. No, we just were. It's true. And I knew marketing really well. I was always able. I wasn't great at building systematic marketing stuff, but like you need me to go get clients, I'll go get clients. Like I can do that all day. And then we hired a marketing guy who was really good at SEO and systematic stuff, and he built that really well. And then Zach was really good at ops and turning our process into a process, or sorry, turning my product into a process. He wasn't great at that at the beginning, but he got really good at that, and he got really masterful at it, honestly. And it was a really good 3-person team, and then we hired some kind of mid-level execs, and he trained them up really well. And it was like we went from like 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 15, 24. It's like we went. It was good. We had it going really well for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple specifics that I want to know. First, quick ones. I know, because I've heard you talk about it in the past and others, about creative, unusual marketing. I'm going to call them tactics that were very effective at different junctures. Yeah. Can you share what you think is effective today in marketing, or something you've done recently, or that you think is a great way to push a product or a company? Or a story of one you've done?
I haven't done much recently because I've been out of Scribe for 18 months.
Raising
I
chickens.
sold my stuff out. Yeah, right. You'd have to give me a field to get tactically specific. You'd have to give me a product or a field, right? But overall, the thing I can tell you that I see working really well now, at least in a lot of places, a lot of fields that I follow, is like really, really granular, what I call dirty authenticity. Right. So like, I have a ranch now. I spend most of my time, I like a regenerative, agriculture, ranch. And like, we're turning Dripping Springs like dry and shitty, and we're turning it into like a pretty amazing environment that's abundant and verdant and all that. And like, when I talk about dirty authenticity, I mean like I follow accounts on Instagram that are like homesteaders that have some products, and like, they're not like, when I see them use their product, it's like them using their product on their land, and they show what works and what doesn't and how to do it. And it's almost like, like when you buy something and it's not working, you go to YouTube and you don't look at the company's YouTube videos. You find like some mechanic, like like I have a Skag mower, and Skag company YouTube videos are fucking terrible. But like, there's all these mechanics who like to show all their hacks about how they, run the Skags, right? I just go to those dudes. So instead of hoping those dudes do videos, just do those videos, right? As a company. And so like there aren't a lot doing that, but the ones that do their videos from almost like they're an enthusiast of the product instead of the company, those are the ones I see that are doing really well. And I think that's the future is for so many, especially consumer product type things, is like the company's got to be run by the true believer enthusiasts, and if it's not, then it's like, it's probably a shitty product. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to get an authentic review of the product.
Well, but it's like, you can do that from inside.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you have to be ultra fucking credible. You have to have unimpeachable credibility. Yeah. And most people, even with good products, can't get past that veneer of sales.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be authentic 90% of the way, but they're like, okay, now buy my thing. It's just like, stop it.
Yeah, well, I think part of credibility is exposing the flaws. Part of credibility is like, hey, look, here are all the great things about the product. By the way, if you're trying to get it to do this, don't buy it.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because you're not the customer that we want.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And that's enough to say, oh yeah, we found a flaw here. Like, this isn't the good thing about it. These are the good things about it. And that's what third-party reviews do or can do.
Yes.
Right?
The good ones. Yes.
The good ones.
Yes.
Right? Is they're showing you both sides.
Yep.
Okay. The looming thing in the air today around writing anything is AI.
Yeah, Chat GPT.
Yeah. So
I was talking about this the other day. Like, if I had to start Scribe in this environment, what would I do?
Yes. Yeah. Right. So we're on the edge, and we're like in infant land of pretty magical tech that does pretty magical things with writing.
Yeah, sort of.
Well, so how do you see AI impacting writing books?
Writing books?
Yes.
Okay, overall, what I see AI doing right now, because things change fast, right? One of the major things I think is going to happen is, like an overarching theme, I think AI is going to make people who are good at media, who are really good, it's going to help them be even better, right? So it's going to be one of those things that's actually going to make the power law, like the power curve steeper, right? Because it's going to allow super talented people to have way more leverage than they could before, right? So if you're already a badass writer or badass creative in any way, shape, or form, because it's not just ChatGPT, there's all kinds of stuff now, then this is just going to fucking superpower you. But I played around with a lot of these tools a lot. They're honestly not very good in terms of creating actually authentic, meaningful stuff. What they are good at is if you are someone who's a great curator and a great creator, you can use these to make yourself more prolific, to do more. Like I was talking with somebody, we could rebuild Scribe with this, with a third of the people. I think we could we could do almost all the same stuff for cheap. So we could be charging the same money and double our margins, and not because only because we don't need as many people. You have to have you still need great book cover designers, right? Mm-hmm. To know what, the concepts of the book covers, right? And to no AI, no LLM is doing that, not for a long time, right?
You don't think so?
No, I don't it. If you want to see the limits of AIs, it's really easy, man. All you have to do is get just take ChatGPT for example. Get ChatGPT to give you a dissertation on a field you know really well. And you'll see, oh shit, they don't fucking know anything. They're idiots. Because what all it essentially is a database query. It's just a really advanced database query program. What most AI is doing now, until general intelligence develops out of AI, which I really don't think is going to happen for a long time for a couple different reasons. And a lot of the smart people in AI agree with me, although some disagree. But we'll see. But it's just querying essentially conventional wisdom and putting together a good argument based on conventional wisdom of everything it can find, right? Bro, in what fields does following conventional wisdom lead you to success?
Probably medicine.
You sure?
Well, I think it depends on how you define success.
Well, if you do what your doctor tells you, you're going to be fat and dead.
No, I agree with you on that front for sure.
Well, no, but that's the whole point is seriously, go home, ask ChatGPT to explain things in your field that you know really well.
Oh, yeah.
Explain it to you and you'll realize, hold on, they actually don't know what they're talking about. Or it's it feels like talking to a journalist. In any field, journalists are always the stupidest people in the field. They are. Because if you're good in the field, you're not a journalist in the field, you're doing it in the field. And the way the journalists never have enough time, and it's called the Murray-Gell-Mann effect, right? The Murray-Gell-Mann amnesia effect. Murray Gell-Mann was a super famous physicist. And he was reading the paper and there's an article on physics and he's this is so wrong that it's not even wrong. It's just nonsense. Mm-hmm. And then he's and then I turned the page and I started reading the business and sports as if it was accurate. And then I realized, wait a minute, everything I know well, the newspaper gets completely wrong. Why am I trusting them on anything?
Yeah.
ChatGPT reminds me of that in that if you don't know a field and you want to get a good overarching start, right? Or if you train the model on stuff you've inputted and are extracting stuff, it's a really good tool. But that's the key. How do you know what to use to train the model, right? That takes talent. That takes experience, intelligence, and talent, right? And so the idea that ChatGPT is going to replace everybody is nonsense. What it's going to do is replace all the busy workers. Right? So the people who are the actually talented people, the 5 or 10% or less of people who make the world go, now don't need any useless drones or don't need lots of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well, I don't know. I mean, the escalation path I'm unclear on in terms of how quickly we'll get to AGI,
right?
Or what, any of the models, but GPT 5 versus 4 or GPT 30 will look like, right? Uh-huh. But I think but I agree with you on the front of right now, it is a huge database querying what has already existed. And it's, showing, little elements of creativity, but the large language models are largely regurgitating what's out there, right? Are pulling what's already out there. The question is where the creativity comes in, because for most humans, that's also what we're doing, right? When we talk about creativity as humans, it's really, we're taking concept A and concept B and kind of mashing them together and being like, hey, let's see what we can make out of this.
Most people, creativity is just, most people don't have an idea in their head that's theirs.
Right. So what's the difference?
That's like I said, AI is going to fuck all those unthinking drones. Yeah, yep. I'm with you. Right. So like someone like me who knows what they're doing in books, who really understands it deeply inside and out, can build, all it does is leverage our ability. It makes me able to do a whole lot more amazing work for other people with a whole lot less labor, external labor. So less people have to hire and pay, right? Absolutely. Does it fundamentally change the system? No, not right now. ChatGPT or nothing close to it are even close to, there's two things. One, it's not even close to, I think, producing any sort of high level expertise book, right? Like that's just not even, I don't think it's even close. At least in almost any field, right?
On its own.
Right. Of course on its
own. Right.
Yeah. But number one. Number two, I mean, fuck, man. I actually get excited thinking about like let's say, like you said, let's say ChatGPT 8 it does become really good at descriptive nonfiction or proscriptive nonfiction, that like it really can like be at least a low level expert in a lot of different fields, not high level, but low level. And it can churn out all the white papers and the manuals and that kind of very rote. I mean, that takes a high level of intelligence, but what we would consider relatively rote, mid-level sort of worker and below stuff, right? Oh man, that opens the world for me. Because the thing I'm best at in the world is writing and teaching memoir. Like I think if I'm not the best, I'm in the top three, right? And it's a debate which of the three of us is number one.
Who are the other two?
And Mary Carr probably, and I absolutely am better than her. I mean, she probably disagrees, but fuck her. And then what's her face? Glennon Doyle. But like, there's no ChatGPT for your memoir.
Right.
Like the whole point of memoir is that it's your story. There's no database to query for that.
Yeah.
Like unless you want to say, well, what about Neuralink? It's like, okay, well then you're not even, then you're not a soul anymore, right?
Or like, uploading all your journals into it.
Okay, right. But see, that's the thing, man, is like the memoir isn't just the journals. Like a memoir is a therapeutic process where you uncover and recognize your own truth first to yourself and then you release it to the world. There's no AI that can even get in the realm of doing that or helping with that, right? And so like if it gets to the point where that's the value, my value is now 100x.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's all cursory knowledge for me at this point, playing with AI, seeing where it intersects, right? Seeing what works, what doesn't.
We'll see.
Yeah. And I think it's a fun thought exercise and we'll see how quickly it unfolds. Well, I appreciate you coming out, man. It's great to dig in. It's always good having conversations with you. You have left Scribe.
Yes.
You've been playing on the farm for the last
sold
18
my
months.
Equity. Yeah, everything.
Yep. Sold out. You're done. What's next? What are you focused on now?
Man, I mean, I got to go home and feed my sheep, dude. Like, seriously, like I have a regenerative homestead like I'm building like a real permaculture paradise. I'm trying to. It's slow because I'm not very good at this, but I'm learning. That right now, ranch, family, that's about it, man. Like I just started or about to start my next like memoir, like my next like my book, not like a how to write a book, but like mine. Like I don't know how long that'll take or when I'm gonna finish that, but I'm like starting that now. So I guess like external project, that's probably the big one. But dude, I spend most of my day like chopping wood or rotating sheep to different fields or shit like that. I love it. Seriously.
Well, if you want people to find you,
TuckerMax.com.
Awesome.
Easy.
Love it. I love it. I appreciate it, man. Well, until next time.
Thank you, brother.
Love it. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I need your help. There are 3 places you can find Beyond a Million. The podcast itself, beyondamillion.com, which has some cool free resources, including a free course. And we finally launched the Beyond a Million YouTube channel. I would love it if you would go there and subscribe. And if you don't want to, you still would probably enjoy seeing the visual content. Check it out, youtube.com/@Beyond a Million.